Okay, so we're going to talk about the Han Dynasty today. Everybody can see my PowerPoint. I mean, I cannot see you. Okay, good. I need to move this okay, to the side. All right, so Liu Bang. Liu Bang was born to a pretty lowly family. His parents are pretty poor. His grandparents are all poor, just ordinary farmers. And he grew up to be this uh, well, he lived in this the China eastern part, close to the sea. You know, in today's northern Jiangsu province, so definitely on the east. Um, he was not aristocratic. Okay, so many of the thinkers, historical figures we have talked about in this class, they're all from the nobility class. Okay, Confucius, first emperor, right? They're all from the nobility class. Yeah, even Zhuangzi and Laozi, they probably born to lower ranking of the Shi class or the lower ranking nobleman class. This is why they received classical education. But now, after the when the Qing was collapsing, we see commoners coming into play. Uh, Including Liu Bang. Okay, Liu Bang's major competitor Xiang Yu was from an old aristocratic family, but Liu Bang was not. Liu Bang was a pure just a farmer. He's from a farmer's family. Okay, and the highest uh, government post he has served in is a local police chief. That's it. That's it. Yeah, pretty lowly social origin. But during the chaos uh, of the rebellion against the Qing, Liu Bang somehow rose to prominence as a rebel leader. So he joined the rebel armies and became a leader of a small group of the army. And then gradually he used the right commanders. He employed the right commanders who commanded the army to win a series of successes. Liu Bang himself is not a good military commander. This is true for most of Chinese emperors. They're not a good military commanders. Actually, if any Chinese emperor who try to really command an army, most of the time it's a failure. You know, military expertise, as we discussed in the week the art of warfare, it's a highly specialized professional job. It's a very professional job. You need a lot of experience, a lot of talent to lead to command a huge army to consistently win success in the battlefield. Emperorship is a totally different job. Okay, so Liu Bang is not a very good general. Okay, at all. But his talent is to choose the right person to hire. So he chose the right person to hire as his ministers, as his generals, as his judges. So this is why the administration is good. He's a good administrator, but not a very good military commander. Yeah. All right. So he hired the right person, including General Han Xing, to defeat his competitors Xiang Yu, during the 4 years of civil war, and then in 202 BCE, he conquered entire China. Um, he's he established his new capital very close to the old capital of the Qing. Right, his new capital is Chang'an, very close to the old Qing capital Xianyang. They're still in the same province today in China. Okay, and then when Liu Bang conquered China, he first tried to get rid of the system of empire. He tried to revive this old system of feudalism. Yeah, for 60 years, he did that. That said, he infifted or he appointed his own sons, relatives, and followers to be the kings, to rule different provinces. This is the old system, right? Remember, this is the old Zhou system, right? This is why this is the old system he tried to revive. But then it did not work out. It did not work out because after he passed away, his grandchildren or great grandchildren, they try to launch a rebellion and they're fighting with each other. Okay, feudalism is always just like that. With the segmentation of the political powers, the system is unstable. Okay, they're constantly without a single bureaucratic empire. The different kings, they just use their military resources to fight against each other. So eventually, after 60 years, long story short, one later emperor called Wu Di, he eventually abolished the system. He abolished this system. Okay, I mean Wu Di's father and grandfather, Wen Di and Jing Di, they already try to get rid of all these powerful, feudal lords. So this one that step by step. So eventually, after 60, 70 years, all these different local feudal lords, their power, military power was all taken away. So empire was reestablished. So this is a pretty long process. It took China centuries, many centuries, to eventually transform from feudalism to imperial system. With a lot of setbacks, a lot of pullbacks, a lot of a revival of feudalism occasionally, right? But this is general direction from feudalism to empire. Okay, yeah. And Liu Bang used to be appointed as the king of the Han region. So this is why he named his new empire Han, which this character comes from the region that he used to rule. The Han region is central China today, in today's northern Hubei province and southern Henan province. Yeah. So after he established this new empire, Liu Bang basically inherited the old system of the Qing. Okay, the legal system was all inherited. So the draconian laws, harsh punishments, they were all inherited. And at first, but Liu Bang did make some very important adjustment. That is, he did not want to impose the system onto the East that much. Okay, because he knew that, he himself is from the East. He knew that the Eastern people did not like this whole policy that much. So although his capital is in the West, which is like 1,000 miles away from his hometown, but Liu Bang only used the Qing system to rule the West. This is where his genius lies in. Okay, he infected the East to the so-called kings, his sons and his followers, to rule the East. And he told the feudal lords to respect the local custom. Do not use what's successful on the West to apply it to the East. So this accounts for his success. He learned a lesson from the failure of the colonialism of the Qing. Okay. Yeah. So he made this very important adjustment. And even on the West, where he ruled personally, as the emperor, he still followed sort of the Taoist philosophy, that is to follow the custom, to have a shadow government, have a limited small government, instead of sucking resources from the society too much. Okay, so in other words, the school that he sort of followed, and not just Liu Bang followed, but also Liu Bang's son and grandson, Wen Di and Jing Di. All the three earlier, 3 or 4 earlier Han emperors all followed is a Taoist school called Huanglao school. We did not talk about this. For Taoism, we talk about the Laozi Tao Te Ching, we talk about the Zhuangzi, we talk about some other interpretations of Tao Te Ching, including Hanfeizi or Art of Warfare interpretation of Laozi. But there is one more branch of Taoism called Huanglao school. Huanglao is a word compound that refer to Huangdi, which is a legendary, the sage king in the past, and the Lao here refers to Laozi. So Huanglao school is a political philosophy about governance, and its tenet is small government. Okay, Huanglao school scholars, they take passages from Laozi Tao Te Ching, especially those passages related to governance, and they developed their own political philosophy to tell the rulers, do not disturb the society that much. They're like almost like Adam Smith. They want a very small government, and they want a society to do its own job. They respect the so-called spontaneous order of the society. They believe that without too much government imposition of laws, regulations, policies, the society will just do well, do fine. A lot of Taoists share this basic concept, right? Huang Lao is just an application of this spontaneous government policies into the domain of politics, right? Yeah, so Taoism can be used in many domains, in philosophy, in the study of language, in culture, in art, right, in military, right, in critique of civilization. But again, it can be applied into politics. Yeah, Huang Lao school is typical. So the first 60 years of the Han Dynasty witnessed the application of the Huang Lao school in the empire. And the first several emperors of the Han Dynasty, the new dynasty, they basically try to live a frugal life, right? They try to have a very low tax on the people. They try to not, follow. They learn a lesson from the first emperor who failed, right? For example, the early Han emperors, they try to not mobilize that much manpower and social resources to build the Great Wall or to build a huge mausoleum or huge palace. No, they don't want to do that. Okay, Liu Bang himself could not even find 4 white horses to pull his own horse chariot. He used cows. He used oxes to pull his chariot. Yeah, he's just poor like that, and he tried to tell his. He tried to use this very frugal policies, small government, to rule the all under heaven. Okay, this is what he considered as non-action, wu wei. Okay, non-action, remember, or non-activity is a key concept in Tao Te Ching. So the early Han emperors really follow that. They really follow that, and the result is great because when tax is low, when regulation laws are not imposed on the society, the economy is growing very fast. So Adam Smith is truly right. Okay, Adam Smith would love this early Han time period. Okay, the first 60 years of the Han Dynasty. Okay, because you see a small government, very small government, who have very little demand on its own people. You just give people freedom. Let them just grow spontaneously. Let them develop economy spontaneously. Okay, so this is now how non-action was used as a political idea in politics. Okay, but of course, if you look at the court politics, of course, there are a lot of plots, there are schemes, there are assassination, there are all kinds of a rebellion, right? But all these chaos or inner struggle or power struggles or inner stripes are confined within the palace. So they did not affect the society that much. They did not develop into a full-scale civil war. Okay, yeah. For example, one of the generals that Liu Bang hired called Han Xin, he tried to launch a rebellion, but even before the rebellion broke out, Han Xin was arrested and executed. So all the kind of this kind of court politics did not have a large negative impact on the whole society. Okay, if you look at several maps. Okay, so this is China, right? On the west, this is the region the emperor ruled himself. Liu Bang ruled himself, and then he gave the eastern provinces to all these different kings that he appointed to rule. And those kings, basically, they respected the local customs and laws. Okay, it's a hybrid system. And then only after 60 or 70 years of running, eventually those autonomous regions were taken back by the central government. So when it comes down to Wu Di's time, the kings are still there on the east, but they lost their military power, so they couldn't launch rebellion anymore. So eventually, bureaucratic empire became the model. of Chinese politics, and left a legacy to the following empires. So yeah, so the concept of empire eventually won the day. The Han Empire pretty much followed the institutionally followed the Qing Empire, but made some fine tunes, fine adjustments. So next week when we talk about the Wudi's time, we're going to talk about how Wudi adopted Confucianism. This is a major change in Chinese history. The founder of the empire, of the Han Empire, Liu Bang, did not like Confucianism that much. You know, when he was a rebel leader, legend has it that there is a Confucian scholar who came to his army saying, "Hey, I want to be hired by you. I can be your advisor. I can serve. I can do service to you." But Liu Bang said, "I have nothing that you can do. I need soldiers. I need generals. I need administrators. But you're a Confucian scholar. You're expert on ancient ritual. I'm not interested in ancient ritual. Remember, he's a farmer. He's not a noble man. So he did not have a very strong interest in ancient ritual. So at first, he thought Confucian scholars are totally useless. He at a certain point he even used a Confucian scholar's cap as some kind of a urination utensil. He urinated in their caps. So that shows his contempt of Confucianism. But once he became emperor, one day he had a party with his generals, and his generals are sort of still consider the emperor as their Robin Hood kind of fellows. So when they drank too much, they just pull out their swords and then just yell at each other, make a scene at the party. They use their sword to slash the pillars of the palace, and this is a chaos, right? The new emperor Liu Bang did not like all this, so Liu Bang wanted to bring some kind of political order to his followers and generals. For that reason, he hired a Confucian scholar called Shu Xuntong to teach his generals how to follow the ritual and ceremony. So this has to be taught to the generals that in the ceremony, like a ceremony like a ritual, a ritual to honor your ancestors, or a ritual to honor the high gods, deities in the universe. You cannot make a scene at a party, okay? You cannot pull your sword to slash at the pillar of the palace. You have to follow certain order. So eventually Liu Bang hired Confucian scholars to teach his generals, ministers, followers how to follow an order at a court meeting. So basically, Confucianism was only useful to the emperor for being some kind of bring some kind of a ritual knowledge and formalities and order or order into a superficial order to the empire. But the emperor himself is not a follower of Confucian teachings or values. Only when it comes down to Wudi's time, that's 60 years later, when Confucianism was finally adopted as the official ideology of the empire. Only until then, the Han emperors started to call themselves as Confucian, and they honored Confucian ideas like filial piety, respect for your parents, sincerity, benevolence, right, righteousness, honesty, right. All these Confucian ideas became the official ideology. And then starting from Wudi's time, the state established the first national academy in human history to use Confucianism to teach talented kids from all over the nation. And they got a full tuition waiver and scholarship. It's all paid by the government. Different the provinces or kingdoms in the empire, their kings or prefects are responsible to recommend talented kids from their own region to the capital, to send them to the capital. And then in the capital, they're educated with Confucianism. And then they go through some tests, examinations, and the talented kids who pass examinations will be appointed as government official. So this is the later system of the Han. The early 60 years of the Han Dynasty, you saw Huang Lao, the population, the prevailing Huang Lao Taoist school. But since the Wudi's time, you see Confucianism as the dominant, as the prevailing ideology of the nation, and even emperors, called themselves as followers of Confucian teachings. And this sets another legacy for all following Chinese empires for 2,000 years. Okay, all following empires, they continued to respect Confucianism as the official ideology. Okay, even after Han collapsed in 400 years, within 400 years, the Han Empire eventually collapsed. It was replaced by other empires, but later empires all followed this legacy. They picked up this legacy that is Confucianism, and this is another very important adjustment that the Han Dynasty made to the imperial system. So on one hand, the Han emperors followed the Qing legal system, institutional system, but on the other hand, in terms of moral and cultural authority, they adopted Confucianism. So they combined the legalism and the Confucianism, and this set up a model for all following Chinese empires until the 20th century. Okay, all following Chinese empire followed this basic model, that is combination of a legalism and a Confucianism. Okay, we know that the first empire, Qing Empire, did not respect Confucianism. Okay, only the Han Empire started to respect and honor Confucianism, and this set up a model. So yeah, legalism and Confucianism combined. One Han emperor told his own son, the throne prince, that he says, "Yeah, we study Confucianism. Everybody studies Confucianism, but be careful with that. Okay, under the table, we actually use legalism. Okay, we follow the Qing system. Yeah, Lord of Shang, Han Feizi's ideas, in this case, are all important, but we don't want to talk about that. Okay, remember when we talk about Han Feizi, it says, a true follower of Han Feizi would pretend that he doesn't believe Han Feizi. Okay, he would openly criticize Han Feizi's legalist ideas, but he's actually, at his core, he is actually a follower of Han Feizi. Okay, this hypocrisy would show that he's a true follower of Han Feizi, and the Han emperors, they're probably masters of this tactic, right? So openly, they would claim to be Confucian followers, Confucian scholars. Yeah, they study all these Confucian texts. Confucian curriculum is also the official curriculum in the Taixue, the National Academy in the capital. Right, all scholar officials have to study Confucianism in the National Academy before they can appointed or get an office in the government, and the emperor also has to do that too. But under the table, they don't believe it. Okay, they actually use legalism to really manipulate the court or the bureaucracy. So it's a combination, very subtle combination of legalism and a Confucianism. I mean, this is just like Confucianism under the Han, since Wudi's time. It's just like the idea of democracy in the United States. I mean, do you see a person who dares to openly object or criticize democracy? Nobody would, right? Because this is dominant ideology of this nation, of this country. But is all the politicians, congressmen, they're true follower of democracy? We don't know. So some of them may only pay lip service. Okay, in their core, they may be authoritarians, or they believe, yeah, maybe a totalitarian society is a better way to go. So this situation continue. You can see this everywhere in human societies. It's timeless. Okay, it's timeless. People say one thing but do another thing. Okay, so you want to be very critical of the official ideology of any society. Okay, just that democracy is the dominant ideology of America doesn't mean that all the presidents or congressmen, they're true followers of democracy. Same thing is true for Han Dynasty. Just that Confucianism is openly respected, honored. It doesn't mean that the emperors or major ministers, they're all true followers of Confucian teachings. They're actually legalist followers. They're legalist followers. All right, so that's the system. So I want to talk about the bureaucratic empire system. Okay, just like the Qing, the emperor rules from the capital, and then he would appoint officials to go to these different provinces. Well, they were not called provinces; they're called prefectures. Okay, they're under the capital. There are dozens of prefectures in China, and each prefecture would consist of several counties. So you have 3 layers of administration: capital, prefecture, counties. Okay, there are more than 1,000 counties, just like in the situation in the Qing, right? And there are dozens of prefectures. The emperor would appoint prefects to rule the prefectures. Yeah. And then the prefectures would rule the county magistrates who rule each county. Okay. During this time, bureaucracy has not yet been centralized yet. That means it is a problem. It's always a process from feudalism to bureaucratic empire, right? I mean, compared to later Chinese empires, in which case the emperor would appoint every official, okay, including just prefects, provincial and county magistrates, right? Everyone in the government, in central government and local governments. But in the Han, the emperor's power is more limited. Although he had a power over the strongest army guarding the capital, the emperor would still leave a lot of autonomy to the local officials to handle. So as long as he appoints a prefect to rule a prefecture, the prefect is pretty much sort of like a king in his own prefecture. But of course, it's not hereditary. He cannot give the power to his own son, like under feudalism. But and also the prefects would have to be evaluated, reviewed by the emperor periodically. After like 3 or 5 years, if he did a poor job in his own prefecture, if for example, tax, nobody paid tax, agriculture is terrible, people are starving, or there are a lot of bandits there, there are a lot of criteria the emperor look at it to evaluate the performance of a local official. If a local official failed at the annual like a merit review, he will be demoted, punished, or kicked out from the government. Sometimes it's executed if it's a serious violation of the requirements. But if he did a good job, then he maintained his work or even be promoted to serve as a higher ranking minister in the capital. So that's the system. That's the system. Okay, let's see. So there are several ways to understand the Han institution, right? Centralization versus regionalism, right? This speaks to the so-called kingdoms created in the early Han period, but after 60 years, they're all gone. Yeah, and feudalism versus bureaucracy. The Han, there's a tug of war between feudalism and bureaucracy, but eventually bureaucracy won the day. Okay, and the hereditary rights versus merit. Bureaucratic empire or bureaucracy requires meritocracy. That means any government official must show or prove his merit to the emperor to continue his job. Okay, and the local officials cannot pass on the power to his own children. So his power is not hereditary. It's conditional. It's conditioned on the bureaucratic empire system. Okay, so that's the third sort of tension within the system. Military versus civil interests. So since the Han Empire, we see 2 groups of officials. military officers and civil officials. Okay, they represent, of course, different forces, right? Different interests. They serve different jobs, but they also show two different attitudes towards governance, right? If you look at the Qing, the military generals or commanders, they enjoy a very high social status. The whole society, just like North Korea or fascist, I don't know, Nazi Germany, military enjoys a very high social status. A lot of resources, budgets are directed towards the military, right? Same thing is true for Imperial Japan before World War II, right? Jingoism, that means everybody is trained to be a soldier, right? To be a bushi, right? Bushido, the way of warrior is popular, right? This is sort of like the Qing system, right? In the movie Hero, we also saw this very draconian law, military rule, right? Almost like a fascist style of governance in the society, right? Everybody is required to either work as a hardworking farmer or as a soldier, right? So military culture is prevailing everywhere. But in the Han, under the Han, things are different. Under the Han, since the government later adopted Confucianism or elevated Confucianism to be the state ideology, there's a culture, Confucian culture started to prevail, to get popular. In this case, people want to talk about poetry, history, humanities, right? You want literature, right? Culture. So a lot of civil officials, since they're trained in the National Academy in the Confucian curriculum, they believe that humanities or humanistic scholarship is the way to run an empire, not a military. Okay, so later as time goes, the Han scholar officials, since most of them got trained in the National Academy in Confucianism, we had this contempt of the military culture. They think military officers are inferior in the ranking of the bureaucracy. So you see this tension or conflict between military commanders and the civil officials. This eventually created a problem. After 400 years of successful rule, the Han Empire eventually collapsed due to this conflict between military officers and civil officials. Wen and Wu, these are the Chinese words to describe the tension between these two groups of political forces. Okay, and inner court versus outer court. This shows another dimension of the state politics. Inner court refers to the emperor's inner palace. This is composed by the emperor's harem, his wife. He only has one wife, legal wife in ritual sense, but he has multiple concubines. Okay, there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of concubines. Okay, the founding emperor of the Han Empire, Liu Bang, he did not have a lot of concubines, but when it comes down to later emperors had sometimes thousands of concubines in his harem, and all these concubines need servants and need managers who serve it. Okay, it's the eunuchs. Okay, again, the eunuchs, the man who has been castrated without a penis. Okay, they are the managers of the inner court. And these eunuchs, normally they did not receive much education. Okay, they only take emperor as their superior boss. So in other words, eunuchs, we have talked about this famous eunuch called Zhao Gao, who sort of for a time being, he for a certain time he dominated the Qing court politics. He handpicked the second emperor, right, and killed the prime minister Li Si. He won the power struggle, but eventually he was killed by some other people. So eunuchs a lot of times play a very important role in Chinese state politics. And the reason is because behind the eunuchs is the emperor's power. So in other words, the eunuchs, they themselves, they don't have power. They're delegates. of the emperor, because the emperor would delegate their power to eunuchs because they don't want to directly manage the inner palace, the inner court, or all these thousands of concubines or many other things of his own family or own household. So he hired the eunuchs to run all these things. He trusts eunuchs to run his harem because man without penis would never have any romantic affair of the emperor's concubines. So that's the only reason why eunuchs are trusted. So that's inner court. Outer court is basically the bureaucracy, including central government and local governments. Okay, all these scholar officials, they serve in the official bureaucracy. They serve in different ministries, the Ministry of War, Ministry of Construction, Ministry of Taxation. I mean, under Han, there weren't all these offices devoted to specific areas. They were called different names, but they pretty much serve the same function. Okay, so different officials would serve in different offices in charge of a specific task, like military, construction, taxation, national defense, education, ritual, and religion, and many other things. Right. So this is a typical typical bureaucracy that is in a full mature sense. It only appeared in China in its elaborate, sophisticated, and mature format in China. Okay, you don't see this kind of a sophisticated government, bureaucratic government without feudalism in any other early civilizations. And the hereditary power is only held by the royal family, by the emperor's own family line. All the other jobs, no matter as a military commandership, ministries, heads of government departments, ministries, local officials, you cannot pass your power to your own children. Okay, it's like a company. It's in this case the emperor is like a CEO of a company, but he's free to give the power to his own son. But all the other jobs, like I don't know, CFO, COO, all the other managers, their jobs are not hereditary. Okay, they have to be proved by the CEO or the chair of the board, right? So that's the Han system. That's the Han system. Yeah. So this image is carved on a stone brick that we discovered from a Han tomb. So this okay, go ahead. Is there any questions? Okay, if you have questions, jumping anytime. Yeah, if you look at this image of the social life of the Han people, you see that the powerful people of Han, probably a local tycoon or some kind of a local elite, lives in this big mansion. Okay, it's a big mansion. There's a watchtower to guard his mansion. There are people under the watchtower working in the field with the dog. Yeah, there are farmers tilling the land. These farmers are probably tenants working on the local elite's land. And then within a walled community, he is having this wine or is drinking wine with his friends, and there are flamingos or cranes dancing in the yard to entertain the master. Okay, and there are different parts. There are different parts of his mansion, right? Yeah. So we know that there aren't big cities, except for the capital, perhaps, and a handful of other big cities. The vast rural region was ruled by local elites just like that. Okay, they hold a big land, a big, huge chunk of land, and then you have this mansion guarded by watchtowers, and then they hire tenants to work on his land. Okay, So it's a land holding economy. Land holding economy. Market economy is not very very popular yet, but eventually this became an issue. That is, people need markets. Okay, Adam Smith is always right. People need markets. People cannot produce everything they want to consume. Right? They need commodities. They have to buy from other people, including, say, salt. Salt is very very important. And not only salt is a important seasoning for your food, but also in early in ancient times when people did not have a refrigerator, salt is crucial to preserve food. You understand that? So it's an absolute necessary commodity for ancient people to have salt. Okay, no matter east and west, you need salt to process the unconsumed meat protein to preserve it longer. That's the only way for you to preserve it longer. Otherwise, without salt, it would just rot away, right? It would turn very very quickly, especially in summer and or in south, right? So you need salt. You need alcohol, right? You need iron to make iron tools and agriculture. So salt, alcohol, and iron. These are the commodities people everywhere in China need. So to circulate these commodities, you have to have merchants. You have to have merchants that transport goods from one region to another. For example, salt is produced on the East Coast. So people on the West will have to buy from the market the salt produced from the East. So eventually, merchants emerged, and they will become very rich because the market is always there, right? Merchants are willing to, invest capital and take the risk in transporting the goods from east to the west, right, to make profit. Eventually, if you can monopolize the market, you get very, very rich. But this is a problem for the government. Okay, so on one hand, the markets will make economy and living will raise the living standards of people, right? It do lots of good things to the whole society. But when merchants get too rich, the legalist rulers may consider that as a major threat. Okay, yeah. So first thing is that emperors do not like very rich merchants. They never like them. They never like them. Okay. This is based on the legalist system and legalist ideas, right? And second, when certain trades become very profitable, the state a lot of times tend to take away the right to trade from the private merchants. Okay, this is what exactly happened under the Han. Okay, so we're going to talk about this later in details about to what degree the state should intervene in economics, in economic activities like trading of commodities and other, or regulate the trading of the commodities. Under Emperor Wudi, the Han state tried to take away the rights to trade salt, iron, and alcohol from the merchants, from the private hands. The state tried to establish its own company. Basically, it's a government company. It's a state capitalism to make the most profitable trades of those commodities. And this encountered, not surprisingly, encountered a lot of resistance from local elites and from government officials who representing local interests. Yeah. So this is the first discussion or debate between capitalism and socialism. Okay, very first one in human history. The state, in this case, the Han state, represents a prototype of socialism because they want to nationalize the most profitable economic sectors. Okay, salt, iron, and alcohol or wine. But there are other people, local elites. They say no, the state should not intervene intervening markets. Okay, so you have this debate between almost like Karl Marx and Adam Smith. Okay, as early as 2,000 years ago. Next time we're gonna read this. Next week we're gonna read this discourse on salt and iron. The discourse on salt and iron is a record of a court debate about whether the state should monopolize the trades of those commodities. All right, so we're gonna talk about that next time. So, but today I just want to show you. Yeah, the Han how the Han people look like. Okay, they, since the popularization of Confucianism, Han elites they want to wear long robe with the big sleeves, and the Chinese in Chinese ancient clothing, sleeves also serve as pockets. You can put everything in your sleeves, so that's pretty convenient. Yeah, and they use silk to make clothes. This silk has been a major commodity, a major product of China since like the War and Peace period, right? Archaeological studies discoveries have proved that. But under the Han, the state openly encouraged production of silk. Okay, so to make silk, you're gonna have a lot of silkworm. You're gonna raise silkworms, and then you're gonna have to plant mulberry trees, because mulberry tree leaves are the only food that silkworms eat on. Okay, they only feed on mulberry tree leaves, so you're gonna have to plant those trees everywhere, and the state would encourage that. Okay, they would encourage people to plant mulberry trees and raise a lot of silkworms, and then when the silkworms eventually turn into a cocoon, right? Before they become moths, right? They would turn into a cocoon. And the cocoon is what you want. That the cocoon is raw material for silk. Okay. Once the silkworms got into their cocoons, you kill them by boil them alive. Like that would kill all the silkworms. Okay. But then you get the cocoons, and then you split the silk out of the silk cocoons. Okay. It's a very, very tiny little thin thread that you can split out of the cocoon, and you split it out using a special technology, and then you use looms and special machines to weave the tiny thin silk cocoon thread into a fabric. This is a super high technology. Okay, this is the high technology in ancient time. Only Chinese monopolized that. This is why, during the Han Dynasty, only silk cloth or fabric was only produced in China, and it was highly in demand in many other regions of the world. Okay, especially in the West. We're gonna talk next time. We're gonna talk about this, how China sort of explored their Western region, how they advanced into Central Asia, into Afghanistan. Some Chinese emissary even went as far as to perhaps Middle East. Okay, but they never, no Chinese ever personally entered Rome. So there was no direct cultural communications between the two civilizations, Roman civilization and Chinese civilization. Yeah. So this is the territory of Han, and also the Han greatly expanded its directly ruled territories. Okay, the Qing only ruled northern China and a part of southern China, but the Han expanded its imperial rule to much greater reaches. Okay, for example, in the north, the Han eventually defeated the nomadic people. The Xiongnu people were defeated. They were ousted from China. And some scholars argue that, when the Huns or Xiongnu, the Chinese call them Xiongnu people, but in other languages like English, they're sometimes called the Huns. The Huns, the Huns, Huns. The Huns were kicked out of China during the Han Dynasty, and some scholars argue that they migrated across Central Asia, and they reached Europe hundreds of years later. And then in the 4th century, 5th century, the Huns eventually became the driving force to push all other so-called barbarians to attack the Roman Empire. Okay, Attila. Okay, Attila, the leader of the Huns, that appeared in Europe, became the sort of I don't know, the scourge of God. Okay, that sort of eventually toppled down the Roman Empire. Right, we all know the story. Yeah, but the question is, to what degree the Huns that appeared in Europe that attacked the Romans, to what degree they're descendants or related to the Huns that the Chinese reported? Because this is too far away, right? This is way too far away. So it remains very controversial whether the Huns in Europe, they are actually biologically, historically related to the Huns that are kicked out from China during the Han period. Okay, during the Han period. Yeah, Huns. Yeah. Okay, the nomadic people is called in English is called HUNS Huns. All right. So in terms of territorial expansion, the Han Empire kicked the Huns out of its northern territory, and then in today's Korea, the Han Empire invaded Korea, northern Korea, and established its 4 counties there. Okay, and then in the south, the Han Empire also invaded northern Vietnam, and it also established counties in today's northern Vietnam. So this is how Korea and Vietnam have been heavily influenced by Chinese culture. Okay, and then in the west, the Han Empire has been sending expeditions, military, cultural, to explore the areas and also to try to find allies, and sometimes rule partially some areas. And they pushed all the way to Afghanistan. We're going to talk about this story about how Han sort of pushed as far as to today's Afghanistan. 2,000 years ago, the kingdom in Afghanistan was called Fergana. Yeah, actually, in today's Afghanistan, there's still big valley called Fergana Valley there. Yeah, because Fergana was the ancient name for Afghanistan. The people there, they're not Chinese. Okay, historically, even from 2,000 years ago, the people in Afghanistan and the related Central Asian regions, there 2,000 years ago, the main population there were Iranian language speaking people. Chinese call them Sodics, Sodic people. Okay, Sodic. That's the Chinese word to refer to them. And then later, only centuries later, the Turkish language speaking people, the Turks, originating from eastern part of Mongolia, in this area, they migrated to Central Asia and then eventually to Middle East, and then they created their own empires. Right, we know that in the early modern period, in 1500s, the Ottoman Turks invaded Europe. Right, they occupied the Balkans. They attacked the European kingdoms, in Central Europe. Right, but the Turks, originally they were from today's China. Okay, but it's just that they migrated so long all the way to Europe. Okay, so today you see all these Turkish language speaking peoples, including Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Turkmen, right, and also Ottoman Turks, right. So all these peoples are Turkish language speaking people. So they stretch all the way from today's Mongolia, right, in northern China, all the way to the Balkans. Okay, so for thousands of miles, you see this Turkish language speaking people. But 2,000 years ago, the Turkish have not arrived in Central Asia yet. Okay, because they have not. They're not to rise yet from today's Mongolia. So Iranian language speaking peoples are in today's Afghanistan and Central Asia. Okay, So this is something that you probably want to know. Anyway, so if you look at Western China, today we call it the Xinjiang area. The Xinjiang area. The Chinese call it the Xinjiang area, or some people call it the Eastern Turkestan. Okay, because a lot of Turks living there. This area historically has seen a lot of cultural exchanges, cultural communications between Chinese, between Iranian language speaking people, between Turks, and then later even from the Arabs. Okay, from the West. The so-called Silk Road, was created during this time period. Okay, under the Han. The Silk Road is a highway connecting Chang'an, the capital of Han, with Rome. Okay, with Europe. Okay, so merchants, musicians, priests, religious priests, soldiers, scholars, right? Emissaries, diplomats. They travel on this highway between China and the West, Central Asia to India, right? The route starts from Chang'an, and then they go through this so-called northwestern corridor, and you have to cross Taklamakan Desert in Xinjiang, and then you enter Afghanistan, and there you can turn south to India, right? Or from India, you can transmit Buddhism, okay, to China. This is how Buddhism got spread to China, okay, through the Silk Road. Or from Afghanistan, you can continue to go west to Iran, and then to Mesopotamia, to Middle East, right? To visit Jerusalem, and then you would enter the Mediterranean Sea, and then from there you can go to Russia, you can go to Ukraine, you can go to East Europe, the Balkans, and then Central Europe or West Europe, or even Africa. Okay, so from Middle East, there are many routes you could take, either by sea or by land or overland. So that's so-called Silk Road. Okay, I mean these highways did not have a name until like much later in like 19th century. Eventually, a German scholar invented this term Silk Road to refer to these highway system. But not only silk was transmitted. All these different commodities are transmitted, including tea. Right, tea is a major commodity from China that a lot of Western people wanted. Silk, tea, porcelain. Right, the reason China is called China is because the porcelain they produce. Right, so for many centuries, only China produced the best porcelain. But this happened later. When China really refined their technology of making very refined and perfect porcelain. Right. And then paper, under Han, China also invented paper. This technology was also spread to other regions. And there are gunpowder. Later in the 11th or 10th, 11th century, the Chinese Taoists invented the gunpowder, and the technology of using gunpowder very quickly transmitted into Europe through the Silk Road. So a lot of cultural exchanges, not to mention religions, music, musical instruments, plants, crops, medicine, right? All these things are transmitted on the Silk Road. So this is not just silk. It's not just silk. Ideas are also transmitted through Silk Road. Buddhism came to China through Silk Road, and then Christianity also went to China through Silk Road. The Eastern Church called based in Syria. There's a church called a Nestorian Christian Eastern Church was the popular church in the vast region to the east of Jerusalem. Yeah, in the 9th century, 10th century, Nestorian Church arrived to China and kind of find its own converts and believers among Chinese. So yeah, so many cultural exchanges. All right. So this is a very, very basic general survey or picture of the Han Dynasty. So next time we're going to talk about some more detailed stories about a case study of a course debate between the prime minister and some representatives of local elites about whether the state should monopolize commodity trades of salt, alcohol, and iron. So this will conclude our discussion today. Any questions? Any questions? If no questions, then I will see you next week. Okay, enjoy your night. I'll stay in the classroom just in case you want to talk to me one-on-one.
Bye. Have a good week.
Bye. You too.
Hey, Professor, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a topic idea, and I was wondering if since we wrote a lot of them for the response papers for each week, if I could use the material that I use for some of these weeks for my paper, or do you just want like a whole fresh start sort of?
No, absolutely. You can use the material you used in your weekly response paper. Actually, I encourage you to do that because
Okay.
I mean that's the purpose of having weekly responses is for you to have these building blocks to
Hmm.
have your final research report, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely use them. Please.
Okay. Because I wanted to do the comparison on human nature versus Mengzi and Xunzi, and
Mm-hmm.
tie it to like which principle would be the most applicable in modern day. So I just wanted to use some of the information that I use for the weekly responses and just put it in
Yeah.
my final paper. So,
Yes, it sounds fantastic. It's a fantastic topic. Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, have a good night.
Hey, Dr. Wei.
Hey, Calvin.
I just wanted to check in real quick. Did you get my portfolio? I
I
emailed
believe
it
so.
over.
I
Okay.
believe
I just
so.
want
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I
Yeah. I just wanted to double check because I know that's Friday and I didn't see like any acknowledgement from you guys.
oh
So I was like,
I mean
oh,
it's on my calendar. I'll meet you. I'll meet
okay.
you there. 12, right? 12 o'clock.
Yep. Should be 12
Yeah.
on Friday.
Okay. So we will have a good conversation there.
Yeah. Any final preparations or anything you think I need to do?
No, no, you're good. You're in good shape. You're in good
Okay.
shape. Yeah.
All right.
Just relax
Perfect.
and have a good conversation. Okay, here's a tip of let me give you some tip about our
Okay.
exam. A lot of times I found out that a student would overthink the questions. A lot of
Yeah.
times the questions are actually more straightforward, simple, just as simple as I'm sorry, I need to stop recording.